Good morning and welcome to Coffee Ann, the longest-running panel discussion show in American radio. To make a comment or ask a question to the panel, call 401-766-1240 or email coffee@woonsocket.radio.com. And now, let's join the Coffee Ann panel.
And a good morning to you. Monday morning, January 29th. It is time for Coffee Ann on ON Radio. This is Joe Callahan. Let's say good morning to the Coffee Ann panel. Good morning to you there, Dave Richards.
Hi there.
Nice to have Dave here with us. Melissa Murray's here. Nice to have you here, Melissa. Hi,
Good
Melissa.
morning. Hello.
And we're being joined for this half hour by Dan
Which one is that?
Gendron.
Is that the Prince T-shirt you have on today?
Yeah.
Purple
Oh,
Rain.
yeah.
One of my many.
Dan Gendron has joined us as well here in the Coffee Ann table. Hi, Dan.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Melissa.
Candidate
Good morning,
for
listeners.
Woonsocket City Council, Daniel Gendron.
And we
Who's also wearing purple,
Yes.
but not because of Prince.
No, but it was raining yesterday, and so, purple rain,
Oh,
it works.
There you go. All right. At
Okay.
8:30, we're going to be joined by Secretary of State Greg Amore on the Coffee Ann
Well,
program.
we used
so-
all the chairs. What are we going to do? Throw Dan out?
We are, as a matter
Okay.
of fact.
He told me
just,
that.
just to be aware of that, Dan. But we invited Dan here. We invited the other two people that are running for Woonsocket City Council to come in and talk about why you should vote for them. And that's why Dan is here as well, because the primary is coming up fast.
Yes, it is.
Fast, yeah,
Next
okay.
Tuesday, a week from tomorrow.
All right. Everything going along swimmingly the way you wanted to so far?
Well, I'm doing as much as I can, so I'm hoping that that'll
you
be
don't
what.
know those things till Election Day, do you?
Exactly right.
You really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can tell you, oh, yeah, but you don't know until the votes are counted. For
I
sure.
I won't
Melissa's
know.
nodding also.
Yes.
Yeah, you really don't know.
No.
Election Day.
All right. Now, officially, no, I should say this unofficially, you're the incumbent.
Well,
because
No, he's
you've
the
been on
veteran. He's the veteran.
Veteran,
You're the
yeah.
veteran because you've been on the city
You
council
can't be
before.
incumbent if you don't hold the office.
That's why I said unofficially.
Yeah.
You've been mayor for a little while, so that's why you're kind of at the top. You're the veteran.
Yes.
So, but you're not relying on that to get back in.
Not at all. In
Okay.
fact, I'm taking quite the opposite approach because
Mm-hmm.
so many people that I talk to continually say, "Don't worry, Dan, you're the veteran. Don't worry, Dan, you're the unofficial incumbent.
Yeah.
Don't worry."
Well, that's
and then
when to worry.
those people, because if everybody Tuesday morning wakes up and says, "Dan's got
Oh,
this,"
he's a shoo-in. Yeah.
and I don't have the support, then it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
their opinion or their perception was if I can't pull it off. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying harder than ever to make sure that my supporters get out and vote. And I can't rely on the fact that people are just going to know me and know that I'm running. I spoke to a very active gentleman just on Friday, and somebody who I'm not going to mention him, but was very involved in things and knows a lot. And I said, I hope I can count on your support. And he says, are you going to run in November? I said, I'm running now.
Yeah.
And he didn't know.
Oh, really?
No.
All right.
So
It's kind of a quiet campaign.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. And
I have to get in now before I get in November.
exactly. So it's that's the kind of thing that worries me.
Okay.
Because he is somebody I know
Is in the
will vote for me.
Okay.
But if he didn't know, he would have been home next Tuesday, and I could have lost that valuable vote.
Sure. All right. So, Dan, how long were you on the Woonsocket City Council?
Well, I served on the council for 13 years, 6 of those as the council president. Prior to that, I was on the zoning board for 7 years. As you alluded to, I served a short term as mayor. And so I've got a lot of history, historical knowledge, but I've got a lot of experience that I can bring to the table. And the thing that I keep trying to point out, this is not a typical election. If you look, and I'm just going to point out one individual, Brian Thompson, who was a new counselor. It takes you time. It took him time to get up to speed, and it took him time to realize how things work and what he had to do and what his role
The
was
most
going to be.
effective way to present things.
Correct. And so what I'm saying now is that the election is going to be on March 5th. On May 12th is when the mayor presents his budget to the city council. there's not a lot of learning time in between there. So unlike a typical election and the benefit that somebody like Brian Thompson had when he came into office, he had some time to grow into that spot, because you come in November, you're inaugurated in December, you don't get the budget until May. So you've got time. We don't have that time. We don't have that luxury. I am the person who's prepared and ready to go in and start working.
Yeah, and by the way, just to make sure, that if people haven't been paying attention for the last couple of years, you never left the council voluntarily.
No, I did not. Thanks for pointing that out, Dave.
You were a
I don't
city-
feel bad enough about it as it is. No.
You were a city. Well, I'm not
I'm
doing it
just
for
kidding.
the emotional value. I'm just trying to be logical that you were these things, but you did not leave voluntarily.
Correct.
You did what you thought was your duty. You were the council president, and the charter says the council president, just like it happened to Mr. Beauchamp last year, the council president will be the mayor should the mayor not complete their term, resign, or whatever.
Correct.
And so while some people thought, and I heard it, you must have heard it, that you managed all this so you could be the mayor. I happen to know that you told me that, no, I'd much rather stay a city councilor. You kidding me? Anybody want to be president right now? No, I guess not. I guess I'm stuck doing it. And so even though you had another job, just like Chris Beauchamp, you ended up having to be the full-time mayor of the city, because that's the way things are written. And you had to.
Exactly.
So when we talk about being on the council for 13 years, this is your first chance to get back on the council where you wanted to be in the first place.
Yes, and I
Because you
did
didn't
run.
want to be mayor when you were on the council.
Correct.
So there you go.
And to your point, I ran in last year, in last November in 22. I did run. I came in
Wow.
8th out of 7.
Yeah.
And it was.
And if they'd have kept the rules the way I liked them, you just would have been on the council again.
And that's true. And I kind of understand a little bit, but what I think, if you want to talk about an unfortunate situation in our charter, and that is the fact that the city council president automatically or mandatorily becomes the mayor.
They fashioned that after federal succession, by the way.
And I
the vice
get that,
president
but-
doesn't have anything to say about it.
Exactly.
The vice president is the president if the president can't do it.
Right. But the vice president, it is their full-time job. When you're
Right.
vice president, you're a full-time vice president.
Right.
The city council president, it's a part-time position, and as you know, I
Theoretically.
still work at Friendly Home. Yes, theoretically. Thank you, Melissa. But I work at Friendly Home. They were good enough to give me a leave of absence, but it didn't mean that I didn't stay involved there too. I still had
Right.
responsibilities and because they had questions, and I'd go in at night, and it was a balancing act. And I look at Chris, Mayor Beauchamp now. He had to work a similar situation. So
Right.
Yep.
it should be this race right now should be
Luckily for him,
the
it came
mayor.
during a slow time for his regular job.
Thank goodness.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not going to be the way it's going to be for the rest of the year, though.
Correct. And come spring, he's still going to be when his lion's share of his work and his other job picks up. He's going to be having to be mayor.
If people aren't paying attention, by the way, Chris works in road paving, asphalt, and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving forward, looking forward to the upcoming election, the upcoming primary. What would you like to get accomplished if you're elected back to the city council?
Well, I think that as I started out with saying, the most important thing and what is going to consume. I've already spoken with Mayor Beauchamp. Regardless of if I'm elected or not, I've offered my assistance if he needs it in any way with the budget formulation. Not that he needs me, but sometimes more is better, and having different inputs will help. So I think that once the election takes place, if I'm fortunate enough to make it through the primary and then fortunate enough to make it through the general, there'll be an inauguration, very low key, small in the clerk's office, and then I'll begin work. And if I'm elected, I will begin work the next day, working with my colleagues to move things along that are already in place. but also to start the formulation of that budget, because what has happened in the past, and I've been with two different administrations, going back to Mayor Fontaine, we would have discussions prior to the presentation of the budget. So when we would receive that budget, we already knew some of the stuff that's in it. We would be able to, know how it was going to
Compare
be.
changes.
Yes, before it got forced on you. The last mayor, she preferred to do the budget without any involvement of the city council, and then present it to the city council, and we would get it for the first time, and then you'd have to take more time. So what my goal is to spend the most of my time getting that budget together. I also want to pick up on some of the things that I had left off on. If most of you know, as I was the city council president, and then later as mayor, the city purchased the All Saints Parish. And it has sat dormant since, as it was funny, as council president, I passed the ordinance, the resolution to purchase it. And then as mayor, I signed the deed and the title for the purchase of it. So I had it on both sides. And it is something that's important to me. I think it's a valuable piece of land, and it's unfortunate that it has sat dormant.
Well, what do you want to do with it?
Well, I really would like to see, and I had brought this up prior to purchasing it, that one of my thoughts was an integral fire department building with state-of-the-art facilities for the firefighters, education areas, management spots, something that would bring our fire department into the 21st century. When you look at the Mendon Road Fire Station and the Providence Street Fire Station, they're relatively new style fire stations. They have some modern, if you will, amenities compared to Station 3 on North Main and Station 2 on Cumberland Hill Road. And it's unfair. It's unfortunate. We want to have the best fire department, the best police department that we can, and then we put them in these antiquated facilities that is just not conducive to the way people should be working. I don't think it's. I was going to say something else, but it's just not right that we have them working like that. So I've envisioned a fire station like that, and Council President Ward has recently brought it back up again, as it was a discussion we had in private when we were looking to buy All Saints. So hopefully that's something that we can look at. Is it the right answer? I don't know. But I have always listened to others and tried to get what's best for the city by getting opinions and facts from other people. I don't know everything, but I listen and I try to learn with what I hear. And it's just a thought that I have now, but it's something that I'd like to see us move forward on.
And in that industry, fire trucks just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
It's
That's
true.
one of the issues.
Yeah,
And then you try to put into this tiny little space,
it's
Right.
true.
and you end up having to park them outside.
Yeah, and you hear they have to reinforce floors because the trucks are heavier, and I don't want to be
Especially
there.
the North Main Street
Exactly.
station is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Needs
took
those-
telephone
yeah.
poles and put them
Yeah.
underneath the floor
Right.
there
They
so the
can't- They
trucks
can't
wouldn't
back
fall
the
through.
trucks in all the way.
Right.
It's just it is grossly unfair.
Yes, it is, and so that's a thought. There's other little projects going into the spring. As many of you know, St. Joseph's Church had given the city a $25,000 donation that they had wanted, and they earmarked it for a misting station for the Dunn Park. And just to clarify, it's not a splash pad like we have at World War II Veterans
Right.
Memorial Park. It's a misting station, similar to what if you're in line at a Disney theme park.
Yeah.
It's these misters that just spray a cool mist on you. You can have multiple ones where you run through. There's different designs. But they donated $25,000. When I was mayor, we put that into a restricted account. It sat there now since they gave it to us and never was used. And it's unfortunate that we have, people in the Fairmount area who maybe don't have the ability to make it to World War II Veterans Memorial Park.
Right.
Why shouldn't they get some benefit of a misting station.
Am I confused on something here? But Dan, do I remember correctly that there was some doubt about Dunn Park and it was going to have a school there and renovations and things like that, and so there was some doubt that would have taken some of the urgency out of a misting station there. Did I get that right?
That was
I think that's
that
all
was
gone
the
by us
story,
now,
yes,
but at the
yes.
time.
That was the story that we were told, is
Yeah.
that there was this grandiose plan for building a Rise Prep school in that area on city property.
Right.
And taking away a city park from the people in Fairmount. I don't think it was right. I'm glad that it fell apart, but the only reason that it fell apart, well, there's a few reasons, but Rise themselves pulled that
Right.
idea. And I'm glad because I think
Public
that
pressure.
it's, well, yeah. And it's, if you live in Fairmount, well, let me say it differently. If you live in the Vernon area, you have a park. If you live in the Globe area, you have a park. If you live in the Cass Avenue area, you have a park. The North End has Cold Spring Park. Everyone, and we're going to take Fairmount's park away from them.
Right. Yeah.
And you think of Fairmount as a big area. I think it was always unfair to just assume that because it's city property, we can do with it what we want.
Agreed.
Okay, we're going to take a break here on the Coffee and program. Any comments and questions can be called in at 401-766-1240.
Recent news stories indicate that today many adults are concerned about the appearance of their teeth at work, socially, and even psychologically. If this is a concern for you, Dr. Jeffrey Dodge can help. They have an on-site laboratory to fabricate full or partial dentures. They also repair dentures. Having an on-site laboratory means that each step of the process is monitored by the dentist and the patient to be sure that style, shade, and shape are right for you. For more information, visit Dr. Dodge's website at drjedodge.com or stop in the office at 1438 Park Avenue at Park Square, 762-3044. 762-3044. Dr. Dodge, your family dentist.
It's party time. Time for the Northern Rhode Island Council of the Arts 29th Annual Mardi Gras. Running for 2024 Mardi Gras Queen are Lauren Fagnant, Jean Michon, and Denise Salasis. Get your tickets today for the Queen Coronation on Sunday, February 4th at the Italian Workingmen's Club and the Mardi Gras Ball on Saturday, February 10th at the St. Anne Arts and Cultural Center. Don't wait. Tickets will sell out. Call 401-486-9380 or visit nrica.org.
The Coffee and panel is enjoying coffee from Down East Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted right here in Rhode Island. Down East Coffee Roasters is available at all Little General stores.
ON Radio.
All right, it's Coffee and on ONAM at FM. Thanks for joining us. Joe Callahan here with Dave Richards, Melissa Murray, and we're with Dan Genren. He is running for Woonsocket City Council, and he wants your vote on primary day, which is February
6th.
The 6th, and then the general election.
On
Top
March,
two move on
Yes,
to March when?
March 5th.
March 5th. I should write that down. Feb 6th and March 5th. Okay. And Dan would like your vote when you're out talking with people, when you're getting signatures and just campaigning. What is the big situation in the city that people are bringing to you that they said, okay, this is what's important to us?
Well, and what's surprising?
Oh, okay. There you are.
What's surprising and what I've tried to downplay a little bit is that everybody I spoke to, their first thing was regarding the land deal on Mendon Road, and what happened with the former mayor, and that she left office. And I said, it's
but that's not
it's
you.
beyond, and that's what my point is.
Yeah.
That's what they talk to me about, and I try to get them past that because it is important that that's our history.
Right.
It's gone. We need to move the city forward, and I think we're seeing that happen now. But they want to see, when you get past that, everyone wants to see a mayor and a city council that will work together. And as anyone who's listened to me for the last 10 years, that's what I have been pounding the table on, is that we have 8 people that were elected to run city government. And they were all equally elected, and we need to work cohesively so that it's for the best interest of the city. And I think that one of the things that you're seeing now is better communication between the council and the mayor. So I'm pleased with that. But that is people's frustration, and that's what I hear a lot of. And I just try and help them to see that things are going in the right direction. Things are getting better in the city of Woonsocket.
Do people
And-
see that when you explain it to them?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
and that's what's good is that they're understanding, and with a platform like this, I've just been able to reach so many more people than I do when I go one-on-one. You know, we just got to a lot of people, and I hope they'll watch and look at a council meeting or read things in the paper and say, hey, you know what, we are a little bit better off than we were.
Yeah, we are. I can attest to that. Even on the state level, people are noticing that. You know,
Good.
things are quiet. Woonsocket's not in the news every week.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and that's a good thing. It really is.
Okay. Any questions from Dave or Melissa before we move on with Dan?
Well, I have questions, but they're probably more private questions than what we'd ask in public, having to do with, well, all right, I'll ask this on the air. And Dan, you have a history with this question, a personal history with the question from your previous service in the city government. I had someone ask me, you still broadcast the city council meetings? Why?
Why?
Your radio.
Yeah.
Because Dan knows that I tried to do them on TV before, but there was political reasons why I couldn't get it done. But they're asking me, why do you bother broadcasting the city council meetings on radio? Now, you're a candidate for city council again.
Yes.
You've been a councilor and you've been the mayor. I ask you, am I wasting my time?
Well, I have a very personal answer, and I think you know what my answer is going to be. And it was always, Dave and I joked about this, is my mother listens to every city council meeting on the radio. She doesn't have cable TV. She doesn't have, access to the internet easily. She's got some, but she won't watch it on YouTube. So she listens, and when my dad was alive, the two of them would sit and listen, arguably because I was there,
Right.
But they wanted
That
to hear
piqued
their
the
son.
interest, right.
But they would listen to the council meetings on the radio, and I hear from a lot of people that they still listen on the radio. I know that there's people who simulcast, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Your radio.
They'll look at the picture, turn down the sound on the
Yes.
computer, and listen to the radio.
Yes.
Well,
And-
being a radio, an audio service, we do punch up the sound a little bit, make it easier to hear.
Yeah, and it's valuable. And listen, anytime we have a media source that will aid in transparency, it's valuable. And the day that you stop broadcasting is a sad day for the city council and the city government of Woonsocket, because it's not like that in every community. People don't realize how lucky we are to have a radio station in the city that will broadcast those meetings. You have done even some special meetings. When I was council president,
Right.
you and I would have a discussion about an important special meeting,
Right.
one that wasn't even, a regular meeting that was scheduled, and you would clear some time to get it on because you knew it was important for people to understand what's going on in city government. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. And I'll just, since you brought that up, I will mention that we do, from City Councilor Garrett Manseri now, receive agenda voicers that we put
Reports,
on the reports, saying that, like, for instance, tonight, the council will meet in a special session, not the regular sessions. Regular sessions are always broadcast here on the station. But special sessions are seldom because, as you'll hear in the report, if you hear it later in the day, there will be a vote to go to executive session. These cannot be broadcast to the public.
Right.
And so that would destroy a lot of the value of the special session, because when we shut the sound down, the audience goes away and then nobody hears when you come back.
That's right. Exactly.
And it's ridiculous. And it also it quadruples the cost of broadcasting. Somebody has to sit there and wait for you to come back.
Right.
Can't automate anything there. All right, well, thank you. And Melissa, what was your question?
Well, I don't have a question. Dan and I have actually served together on the city council
Yes.
for 5 years. right?
Yes, we
yeah,
did.
5 years. I had a weird 3-year term.
Yes.
That was my first term, which was great, by the way, because you got a year to kind of like
It was good.
figure it out, and then a second year to actually do stuff, and then the third year's an election year. But we've served together, and we've served together on different boards. So I know what Dan's all about.
So would you say Dan is correct then, and when he says if he's elected and it's only a couple of months before he gets the budget, where he has the upper hand over his competitors because it would take them a year or so to ramp up?
It's a definite edge. I mean, I remember my first budget, and you think you're ready,
But you're not.
you're like, I have so many questions. I remember I probably had like 100 tabs, and the budget compared to like the state budget that I get.
Yeah.
This year's budget actually isn't that thick, but the city budget seemed massive to me, and I would have like 100+ tabs in all of the
Can I
like,
ask a question about this?
Every question,
On every
tab,
page.
tab. Yeah, no, pretty much.
Okay, all right.
There's only 130 pages in the whole budget, and she had 100 of them tabbed.
Probably. They were all sticking out. It was dog-eared by the time I was done with it, but that's what you got to do.
Yes,
Okay,
but
okay.
you know what? I got to say, though, Melissa, that is still better than the people who come to the council meetings with their pristine budget that isn't even increased.
They haven't even looked at it
Yeah,
yet.
because they've never opened
Because
it.
they've-
So,
I know, my
so
goodness.
thank you for
Oh, my
having one that was
goodness.
dog-eared.
And you know what I got for that? I got put on finance.
There you go. Well, good for you, good for us.
Blessing and a curse, right?
Yes.
Dan, I want to get your opinions on what the school committee has done, and they want to put the unified school at Barry Field.
Yes.
Yay or nay from you?
Well, I think that it is the intended use for that property. I think it, obviously it was donated for educational use, athletics, or, they're not using the whole facility, so there still will be room for some athletic fields. But I think that, we wasted so much valuable time talking about putting a supermarket there. How
Stop
long
and
did
Shop
we
is
have
very
that?
much in favor of the school going there.
Oh, I bet
Yes,
they are.
but-
Yeah.
But the thing is that we have other spots in the city. What we need is a CEO that will sell what we have and not try to continue to ram down what we can't sell. And, I get the idea of saying, hey, what does everyone think about giving up Barry Field for a supermarket? And it was a good question to ask. No one would ever criticize someone for asking a question. When it came back with a resounding no, move on and show them some of the areas that we could put a supermarket. Or, we're talking about, they're saying a supermarket is going on Social Street. I don't know that that'll be a supermarket. I think it'll be a nice addition for people to have access to some food, but I don't think that it's going to be a supermarket. But time will tell. And
But back to my question: Are you in favor of a school
yes,
on Barry Field?
Well,
Okay.
I thought, I thought I answered that.
Okay.
That yes, it was intended for school use. That is what it should be used for.
All right,
Yes.
But really, that's supposed to be the school board, the school committee's business
Yes.
to decide those things, and the city council is supposed to be there to work along with them.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to run the school system.
Right.
Just wanted his opinion.
Yeah. No, and I'm fine giving that.
Okay.
If I can I just throw in?
Yeah. It's almost time for summation.
I know, and so I just want to point out to people that I think if you know me by now, you've seen me in action, if you will, for the last 13 years. Don't lose sight of what we were able to do. This council, with me as president, we lived through COVID. And through the whole COVID pandemic, we only missed one city council meeting, and it was the first meeting in March when it broke.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to do.
Didn't have a plan.
The solicitor said, we've got to just cancel it. We
Yeah.
can't meet. And the very next meeting, we went to Zoom, and we kept city government going. And that was by no mistake of mine or the good work of the city solicitor and the rest of the council. We worked together to keep the city going. That I don't want to live through that again, but that is something that I was able to do and was able to work through. I am a homeowner in the city. I graduated from the high school in Woonsocket. I think people know that I'm a lifelong resident. I own a home. I pay taxes. I know what happens when people are taxed more than they can afford. I will always be frugal with taxpayers' money while trying to balance the necessary services that we have to provide. We need public works. We need public safety. We need infrastructure control and management. Those are not, we're not going to get away from that. And we do have to have taxpayers pay for that. But there's a way of balancing it as best we can, trying to increase the levy in different ways without necessarily increasing the tax rate.
All right. Well, we've come to the end of the portion of the program, and Dan Gendron, thanks for coming in. Best of luck on the primary on February 6th.
Very good. Thank you,
and
Joe.
Hopefully
Thank
you're
you.
on to March 5th for the actual election.
I hope so, and I appreciate the time to be here. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Dave.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Dan.
Joe.
Thanks for coming in. Weather forecast right now being brought to you by Compassion International.
Cloudy skies today with a high of 37 degrees, winds from the north up to 30 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly cloudy, overnight low of 18 degrees above zero. North winds up to 25 miles per hour, making it feel much colder. Tuesday's weather mostly sunny and a high of 28 with a north wind. Wednesday, partly sunny and 38, calm wind. Thursday, partly sunny and 43. Thursday night, a chance of some rain and snow mix. Friday, a chance of some rain and snow mix and a high for the day of 41 degrees with cloudy skies Friday. Saturday, mostly sunny and 33, and next Sunday, sunshine and 31 degrees.
Currently outside the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Ave and Kennedy Street with cloudy skies, we have 35 degrees. Families in poverty are facing a global food crisis. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
For an Allstate agent, providing protection options that fit your life is something they take, personally. Allstate agents are committed to learning about your needs and helping customize protection to meet them. From bundling your home and auto insurance with ease to evaluating optional coverage, your Allstate agent can help build an insurance proposal that fits your life. And just as important as learning what you need is learning what you don't. Because helping you get coverage you want with savings you deserve is what Allstate is all about. It's time to get coverage that's catered to you. Are you in good hands? Call Kara and Celeste Benjamin at the Benjamin Agency. One agency, two locations in North Smithfield and Bellingham. One telephone number, 765-5000. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Allstate Property and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois. Whether you own a restaurant or an auto repair shop, you need as many customers as you can get. Every business does. Don't limit yourself to one newspaper. Get the power of two daily newspapers for the price of one. The Blackstone Valley's Call and Times deliver customers from all over the valley with just one phone call. Phone 767-8500 for twice the effectiveness, over twice the area. The Call and the Times.
When you're thinking about a place to go out to eat with your family or the whole gang, or maybe something quieter for just the two of you, head over to ON Radio's website, woonsocketradio.com, and click on the restaurant guide. This gives you a listing of the best restaurants in the area. You can take a look at menus and possibly even make reservations. This is a great resource to see a bunch of restaurants all in one place. Remember, it's woonsocketradio.com and click on Restaurant Guide. And if you own a restaurant that's not already listed, call WOON Radio at 401-762-1240 for information on how your restaurant can be on the Restaurant Guide. Call Joe at 401-762-1240. All right, it's Coffee Ann here on ON AM and FM. We thank you for joining us. This is Joe Callahan being joined at the Coffee Ann table with Dave Richards, Melissa Murray's here, and we're being joined by Secretary of State Greg Amore. Am I saying that right?
You are.
I am saying it right. All right, very good. I think this is your first time here.
It is.
It is. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. This is going to be great. Any questions for the secretary? You can give us a call in 766-1240. We'll pass it along to Greg Amore. And first question, and a lot of people might have this question, is in a nutshell, in a minute or so, what does the Secretary of State do?
Yeah, it's a good question. We are most closely associated with elections.
Right.
obviously, but we share that responsibility with the Board of Elections. So we have a separate duty so that an elected official is not counting votes or making decisions on challenges to votes. But we are also the state archivist. We keep all the records of the state. We keep the public information and distribute that. We are responsible for business services, so we register every business in the state of Rhode Island and make sure that they are compliant and up to date with their certifications and licenses. It's a broad and dynamic office.
Well, that's a busy job to do.
It is.
Keeping track of every business in the state. Of
Yes,
Rhode Island?
that's
Wow.
the bulk of our staff is in business services.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we mentioned earlier because Dan Jenner was here about the primary coming up here in Woonsocket on February 6th, and then the other election when the two people move on March 5th. So, Dave and I were actually discussing it earlier. The primary, the president preference primary, is April.
April 2nd.
And is there any way that some of these could be combined?
The difficulty with
Maybe that's not the question, right?
Well,
But-
the difficulty with combining them are the different calendars that govern those, right? So in a presidential preference primary, you have to get overseas ballots out to our military and folks who are living overseas based on federal law. So because of those calendar differences, it's very difficult to match them up.
Okay.
It's not just sending them; it's getting them back.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to get military and overseas ballots out 45 days prior to the election under federal law. If we do not, we're disenfranchising those voters, many of them military, and we're in violation of the Department of Justice mandate. So we make sure that our calendar is driven by that number.
When you send those out 45 days in advance, how long do they have to get them back to you?
They can get them back as long as they're postmarked by the date of the election. They can get them back to us, but predominantly those come back relatively quickly. And then if there are people in combat zones, okay, they have the ability to email a ballot. We print that and then run it. So it's not an online vote.
Okay.
It's a printed ballot that then is put through a machine and counted.
Okay. Melissa, you're down there at the State House. Do you often run into Greg Amore in your dealings down there at the State House?
Not really.
No? Okay.
I mean, when,
Unless you go up to the library.
Well, our office is right outside the Senate chamber,
Yeah.
but we don't necessarily run into each other.
right. There's a lot of folks running around all the time,
Yeah.
and as the secretary can tell you, he served in the House, and the House and the Senate don't often cross over and hang out with each other
Well, you got
for
business
whatever
to do.
reason.
You
It's
got
just
business
it's
to
a
do.
thing. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
part time again.
Okay.
Part time,
so
so
we-
we're
if we
always
have
very
legislation
busy.
Yeah.
that we're presenting before the House and Senate. We come in and
You'll
present
testify.
that legislation, testify before committees, send letters to support or oppose legislation. So we're pretty active during the session, and that's where I would run into Senator Marty.
Okay. Yes, Dave.
Mr. Secretary, the library that's in the State House upstairs is, shall I just say, a very impressive place.
It's beautiful.
I can't imagine how much effort it takes to keep that place squared away the way it is. You can find things. I mean, but it must be the tip of the iceberg of what you own. When I say you, I mean, of course, the taxpayers.
Yeah.
The taxpayers
Rhode
own
Islanders, yeah.
That
we
that
manage
has
it.
been-
Rhode Islanders own it.
That has
Yeah.
been submitted for archival process. First, could you speak for a moment about what it takes to keep that place ship-shape so that when someone comes in and they have to look something up, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't a legislator coming in and wanting to look up a public law from 1950 or something like that. You've got it there. You've got them from 1850. But when you don't have it there in that room, and there are limitations, where on earth can people find things? Are they still in that building somewhere, or do you have another off-site location? Or wait a minute, did I hear just you were thinking of getting one place where you could get everything? So I imagine it's scattered.
It's
Now
a good segue.
now that I'm thinking about what I've heard you supporting, that there isn't one building where you can go and find everything, right?
Right. So we have tremendous professionals in the library. 3 librarians who serve the General Assembly and the public.
When I was there, they were so polite. Not one of them said shh. And you know how I talk.
And it is a working library.
Yeah, it is.
But it also hosts public meetings. It's a magnificent space, as you pointed out. The ceiling is designed to look like a leather-bound book.
Right.
So it's really beautiful. So there's a lot there, including digitized public records that our librarians can look up for legislators and the public. But if it cannot be maintained there, it's maintained at the State Archives. And the State Archives is located on Broad Street in Providence. It's in a commercial space that the state leases.
Oh, my.
We are the only state in America that leases commercial space for our state archives. And we're the only New England state that does not have a purpose-built archives. In fact, most states have purpose-built archives. So what we have done is lease the space and done the best we can to make sure that it serves us well in protecting some of the most magnificent documents that we have. So we can look up a law from 1950, but we can also look at the Act of Renunciation, which is our Declaration of Independence, May 1776. Or we can look at 64 letters from George Washington, or a letter from Abraham Lincoln asking us for troops, or the documents from the Gaspee incident. We can look at the Continental Congress record, the Second Continental Congress. All of that is in our possession, including an original Bill of Rights, one of the 14 that was produced, and one of the original Declarations of Independence that is signed by John Hancock only. So this is even before the delegates signed the Declaration. 13 were sent out to the colonies, and his signature is on that document. We are in possession of that. So there are so many treasures that we possess. The problem is the public can't access those unless they make an appointment, set up a time, go to Providence, sit with the archivist, and take a look.
But Broad Street, I'm trying to think back.
Across from PPAC. It was on Way-Bossett. It moved to Broad Street recently. Yeah.
But there are areas of the city that I wouldn't necessarily put such an archive because of elevation, because of surrounding buildings, because of access and other things like that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Secretary, but would you imagine that our archives are at more risk than they need to be?
There's a vault in this building that protects these treasures that I'm talking about. It is secure.
It's not on the first floor.
It is dry. It is first floor, but it's an elevated building, so the lot is a little bit below it. And in fact, there's a parking lot below it. It's not a perfect location because it's not accessible, but the documents that I talked about are secure there.
Okay.
They are secure. It's just a very small space. We are paying to have documents stored off space. We have about 4,000 boxes at Iron Mountain. So we're out of space. We visited the Massachusetts archives.
Talk about accessibility, the ones at Iron Mountain.
Right. And in Massachusetts, they have so much empty space. They have storage for the next 100 years. They have more empty space than we do constant space.
Is that in their state house?
No, that's near the Kennedy Library.
Okay.
So it's a very accessible. And they have a museum there, and that's what we're proposing. Not only an archives to preserve these documents, but a museum so that Rhode Islanders can come and visit these documents, and that we can have exhibits that kind of tell the story of Rhode Island. So there's dual purpose here. There's a practical purpose to build this, to make sure we have space for these treasures. And then there's an economic impact. We know that if we display that Hancock Declaration of Independence, people will come see it. And Senator Maury knows this. In the beautiful stateroom at the State House, we have the Gilbert Stuart portrait of George Washington.
Right.
General Assembly had 2 of those painted. One is in Newport. That shouldn't be in that room. That room gets incredibly hot. That's not the place to preserve that. I would guess that.
This is not the copy we saw in school. This is it.
This is
This is
it, and it's the basis for the dollar bill image of Washington. It's worth $50 million, somewhere in that range. Last time it was assessed, it was 10 or 12 million, and that was years and years ago. So that shouldn't be there because that's not temperature controlled, that's not light controlled. That should be in an archives. And we know that people would come visit to see these these treasures.
Do you have a place in Providence that you have your eye on? that
Yeah,
you
we
think would be good?
there have been a number of site studies done. It's
Yeah,
been
but
narrowed.
would you poison it by talking about them in specific? Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you brief examples. So people are concerned about the Cranston Street Armory and what its purpose is, and there
Right.
was a site study done there.
Right.
It's cost prohibitive to try to turn that into an archives building.
Okay.
And there are a whole host of other state sites. We think that on the Capitol campus is the best place for it because it kind of lends itself to the tourism. And we have 10,000 people, actually 10,000 students that come in to the State House, but we have more tourists that come in. I think pre-pandemic it was 17,000 folks who visited and take that tour. That's a natural connection. So we've kind of narrowed it down to two locations on Smith Street in front of the administration building. And there's been a site study done there. That's buildable. And then we're looking at the lot next to the train station. We're not so sure about the buildability of that. But again, that provides access to the State House, parking located at the mall, and then obviously transit with the train station. So those are the two places the Archives Working Group is looking at.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Coffee and program. We're talking with Secretary of State Greg Amore. And comments and questions you have for the Secretary can be called in at 766-1240.
I'm here on the floor of the Family Discount Furniture Store, known as Coletta's Furniture, and Brad Coletta is standing right next to me, and we're looking at dinette sets of every possible description and size. Brad.
Hey, Dave. So at this new location, we have a lot more space. So we have a lot more selection still at the everyday lowest price. Just a lot more to see and color options. You know, you could start with something drop leaf table, 2 chairs. We have smaller pub tables with 4 stools. And then you could go up to a table with 6 chairs and a bench. So we have ones with extended leaves. There's a lot more option here to see on display.
And different colors too, all at the Family Discount Furniture Store, now known as Coletta's Furniture, 598 Wood Avenue in Woonsocket.
It's party time. Time for the Northern Rhode Island Council of the Arts 29th Annual Mardi Gras. Running for 2024 Mardi Gras Queen are Lauren Fagnet, Jean Michon, and Denise Salasis. Get your tickets today for the Queen Coronation on Sunday, February 4th at the Italian Workingmen's Club and the Mardi Gras Ball on Saturday, February 10th at the St. Anne Arts and Cultural Center. Don't wait. Tickets will sell out. Call 401-486-9380 or visit nrica.org.
When you're thinking about a place to go out to eat with your family or the whole gang, or maybe something quieter for just the two of you, head over to ON Radio's website, woonsocketradio.com, and click on the restaurant guide. This gives you a listing of the best restaurants in the area. You can take a look at menus and possibly even make reservations. This is a great resource to see a bunch of restaurants all in one place. Remember, it's woonsocketradio.com and click on Restaurant Guide. And if you own a restaurant that's not already listed, call WOON Radio at 401-762-1240 for information on how your restaurant can be on the Restaurant Guide. Call Joe at 401-762-1240. It is Coffee and here on ON AM and FM. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Joe Callahan along with Dave Richards and Melissa Murray, and we're being joined by Secretary of State Greg Amore. A nice first time here on Coffee and.
Yeah, first time here at the station. Yeah, we met him down at the State House, and very, very impressed. And there's something else that I'll say, and I don't know if Melissa's going to agree with me, but I've had some close personal friends who have been Secretary of State before, and I was far less impressed with my close personal friends than I have been with the work that you've been doing for us down there. Seriously, it's just the attitude that you bring to the job, sir. When I first met this man, well, here's the Secretary of State. He's there in the stateroom, and you wouldn't even know he's Secretary of State. He thought it's just one of the participants in the program, something like that. You know, he doesn't wear it on his sleeve. He's there to do a job, and he's more interested about you than he is in himself.
I appreciate
that. And seriously, that's the aura you give off to a first-time person who walks in and sees, well, I'll be a son of a gun. And like I said, I've had some close personal friends who have been Secretary of State, and they were far more impressed with the fact that they were Secretary of State than you seem to be.
Well, I still consider myself a public school teacher.
There you
so
go.
That's what I did for 27 years.
Where?
At East Providence High School. I taught AP U.S. History and Civics and Government there. And then I was the athletic director for the last 6 years of my career. I spent a lot of time in Woonsocket because I was a hockey coach. for 20 years, I coached the East Province hockey team, and I was a youth hockey player. So, I spent lots
played hockey.
of hours in Woonsocket at the arena at the school I will not mention, because when I was a player, we never beat Mount St. Charles, and I played when Brian Lawton was the number one draft.
remember
pick.
those days.
He
We
scored
were
7
broadcasting
goals
all the
against
games.
us. I had a -5 in that game as a defenseman. And I wasn't terrible. I was a decent player, but they were just exceptional.
Yeah,
My
he
big
was.
claim to fame, when I was 11 years old, Brian Lawton and I were on the same team. He was 12. And we could tell then, oh my God,
He was,
he's so much better than us.
they had
That's
many
unbelievable.
great players. Matt Schneider. I mean,
Yep.
so I've been in Woonsocket a lot.
All right.
Because of my hockey connections.
Secretary, talk about this civic liaison program you're going for high school students. What is that all about?
We're very excited about that. We have 83 students from 41 high schools who have come together. They meet with our civic education staff once a month. They do panel discussions. They meet legislators. They meet folks in the community who have impact beyond legislation, or nonprofits and leaders in the community. They meet some media folks, and basically they all take on a civic action program within their school community or their community at large. And that can be as simple as a voter registration drive. Some of these kids are going to volunteer and work at the polls in upcoming elections. Some of them are engaged in a day of courtesy at their school. Some of them organize the mock elections at their school, where we bring in the voting machines, we make the ballots for the elections, and then this will all culminate in April, where they'll come to the Capitol, they'll come to the Marriott, they'll stay at the Marriott for 2 days, and they'll spend a day in the courts, a day in the General Assembly. They'll spend a day or a half day speaking with the general officers. They have media panels at night, they workshop at night. And this is totally nonpartisan, bipartisan. We have Republican members of the General Assembly who will be part of the panels, and they'll do lunch with the kids. And the idea here is to engage them in their government, teach them how to access government, and maybe build a bench of the next generation of leaders. And it's based loosely on the Close-Up, the National Close-Up program.
in Washington, D.C. Okay.
But we're really all in on this. And the nice part about this is this summit in April will cost these students nothing. It'll be entirely paid for through our efforts to get corporations and philanthropists to support this. Rhode Island Foundation is the fiscal agent. So a kid from Woonsocket will be in the room with a kid from Moses Brown, and sometimes the only time they see each other is on the basketball court or the soccer field, and they'll be able to talk to each other and kind of share experiences that they normally wouldn't, and work together. So one of the big pieces of this project is debating a law, a proposed bill on the House floor. We'll assign positions. There'll be a robust debate and then a vote, and they'll follow the procedure of the House. But they'll also hear from legislators presenting real-time bills to them. So we think it's a way to introduce students into their government.
Do they get to hear from lobbyists too?
They do.
They do?
They
Oh,
do.
okay.
We're going to present as best we can
This
the
is the way
entire
it is.
process
Yeah.
within 3 days. Yeah.
Wow.
Now
okay.
they're doing work leading up to that in these monthly
Yeah.
meetings as well.
It would seem to me that then those youngsters might be more open to public service and elector
We hope
office.
so. We hope so, and we hope that they're
'Cause,
comfortable.
you know, it gets a bad rap.
It does. It does. My parents taught me that public service was noble.
Yeah.
I became a teacher because I thought that, and I think politics is noble. And when people make mistakes or they on the very extreme commit crimes, they should be punished for those. But we shouldn't lump everybody into the same pile because there are very, very, very many public-minded, public service-minded members of the General Assembly, town councils, city councils, who are just good people, good citizens who are trying to serve their community.
This civic liaison program, how long has it been going on for?
This is brand new.
Oh, brand new this
we
year?
have created this.
Oh, okay.
And it's based on my experience as a high school teacher, but also my experience as being a close-up volunteer in our school at East Providence. So I used to bring kids to DC every year as part of Project Close Up. So what I decided to do is kind of
Make it local.
take that and make it local. So it's brand new. We're thrilled with the response.
That's great.
I could, and by the way, the schools are parochial, private, charter. We take all of God's children.
So you just reach out, to the history departments of
We
every
do.
school
We
and say,
reach
"This
out
is
to
what we're
every
doing"?
school, their admins, their history departments. We have our staff calling, emailing, visiting to try to recruit these students. And then I do classroom visits. I think we've been to nearly 45 schools where I do a classroom visit where I do the history of voting rights in America. And then I conclude that with what the student's responsibility is in engaging in their right to vote. So those have been well received, and a lot of times we recruit those students from those classroom visits.
Do the girls in the class get excited about it, especially when you talk about voting rights and how they didn't have any?
Yeah, it's
until the 20th century.
It's part of what we talk about, you know, and you know, when you go through the history of voting rights, Rhode Island has a key role in that, and expanding to non-landowners. Right, the Dorr Rebellion was about landowners gaining the access to the vote during the era of Jacksonian democracy. So Rhode Island has a role in all of this, including women's suffrage, and that is a topic that's talked about. Now, I will tell you that the girls in the program kind of lead the way. So things have come a long way. They are the leaders in many
What's
ways.
wrong
of
with
the
that?
civic
Oh,
life. No,
goodness,
it's great.
yeah.
It's great.
They're the voices.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, that's great, and I hope this is a major success.
Yeah, we've actually had inquiries from departments of state around the country as to how we're doing this and how they can start their own program. So we're proud of what has happened thus far.
Must be a little easier in Rhode Island because we're such a small state.
It is. We
as
have a
opposed
huge,
to like
huge
Idaho
advantage in that we can be in these 40-plus schools and not have it eat up the entire day.
All right. Moving on, because the president preference primary is coming up on April 2nd, and you don't hear Rhode Island in the news about like Maine and Massachusetts and Colorado, or whether or not Donald Trump should be on the ballot. Has that been brought up at all to your office?
It has. So I was sued.
Well, there's a group out there that's
Yeah.
doing this everywhere.
Yeah. So
Your office was sued?
Yeah, so we were sued early on based on the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which I thought I had left behind in the classroom, but it has resurfaced. And that suit was dismissed by Judge McConnell, so it didn't get to the point where, let's say, Colorado is. And then I wrote an op-ed for the Boston Globe talking about what the Secretary of State's role in Rhode Island is in regard to ballot placement. And I don't have unilateral power to determine who is and who is not on the ballot.
Yeah.
This is a novel constitutional question that should be decided in the courts, and that's what I wrote in the op-ed. It's not my job to put my finger on the scale as a partisan Secretary of State. I'm following Rhode Island law. If Donald Trump gets 1,000 signatures and he qualifies constitutionally at all other levels, he's on the ballot, and he is. He is on the ballot. It's not my role to unilaterally decide who is and isn't on the ballot. Now, the constitutional question is unique. It's interesting, but it's not my job. That's
you
the
to
process
decide.
of judicial review.
Well, Greg, he's only been accused. It hasn't gone through a legal system. No judicial process has said you are guilty of fanning the flames of insurrection on that day, and because of that, you can't count it, can you?
So he's been charged, but not with insurrection, rebellion, or aiding and abetting, right? He's been charged with federal crimes, but not those. You know, the 14th Amendment was about post-Civil War America, right? It was an intent to keep those that were in rebellion from serving in office after they had already served and taken the oath for the United States. So it was very specific, and it was very easy to determine who did that, right?
Yeah,
they either wore a gray uniform, or they served in the Confederate legislature, or or served somehow in the Confederacy. It was very easy to determine. This is not so easy, right? There are questions, and I have said this before, and I'm not shy about it. I think there are plenty of reasons for voters to disqualify Donald Trump as president of the United States, but that's not the job of a Secretary of State.
Right.
Okay. So in terms of the April 2nd primary, when do people have to be registered by to vote?
March 3rd. So, and not just registered, but to disaffiliate. So let's say you are a Republican who wants to vote in the Democratic primary, or vice versa. You have to do that by March 3rd.
Okay. When does early voting start for the...
So early voting is March 13th to April 1st. So April 1st is the day before the election. And for your listeners, early voting happens at the City Hall, and it happens in the exact same way it happens on the normal election day process. So you're going in, you're asking for a ballot, you're showing your ID, you're putting it through the machine. It's just early voting, but it looks exactly like same day voting.
Do you have all the Republican names on the ballot of the people that have decided to suspend their
Yeah,
campaigns?
all of those that have qualified, even if they've decided to suspend the campaigns, are on the ballot. And I think we're past the date where they can send us a letter that says, please remove us.
Yeah.
In fact, I know we are past the date.
Okay, so they'll just be there.
They'll be there.
That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. We're coming to the end of the program. Any last minute?
Well, I want to
quick
thank
questions for the-
Secretary of State for being
Okay,
with
go.
us today here on Coffee and very, very engaging conversation. And hope we can get you back on here
Yeah,
again
I'd be happy to come back.
when you're not so busy.
Thank you.
He's always busy.
It's an early
though.
day today.
Yeah.
Well, I had to be in the classroom at 7:15 in the morning, so this is not unusual.
Okay, that's great. And we want to say hi to Faith, who has been very quiet in the background over there, making sure you stay on track.
All right, Melissa Murray, any last minute words for the secretary?
Always nice to see you, Mr. Secretary.
You as well, Senator.
And we, of course, will be in touch, and I'm sure I will see you at the State House
And in Woonsocket.
and in Woonsocket. Yeah.
All right, Secretary of State Greg
Even
Aborn,
better.
thanks for joining us on
Thank
the Coffee
you.
and Program. We
Happy to
appreciate
be
it.
here.
Stay tuned for what's coming up next at the library with Leslie Page. Food First with Karen Zang. Gary, it's next on ON Radio.
And
Yes,
also,
Dave.
thanks to Dan Jenner for being with us
And
earlier.
thanks, that's right. Thanks to Dan Jenner for being here on the Coffee and Program.
Broadcasting live and local daily from the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Avenue and Kennedy Street. This is WOON Woonsocket Radio. And now, the news. A 22-year-old man from Willimantic, Connecticut is charged with a murder last month over in Fall River, Massachusetts. Police said the victim was